Hey there, my name is LexC and thank you so much for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about some little things that waste your time during a session so you can be more aware when you're recording, so you can make the most of your time at the studio. So if this sounds like something you're interested in hearing more about, keep watching. The biggest thing that's not so little of a thing that wastes your time when you are in your session is not having your song prepared before you get there. I mentioned this in a lot of videos if you haven't noticed by now, but the number one mistake I notice people make when they come to the studio is that they don't have their song prepared. They don't know what they're going to talk about in their song. If they're going to be freestyling, they have no idea what the topic's even going to be. They haven't written their song. They don't have anything practiced. A lot of times I've seen rappers come in and they don't have a beat prepared. We're just kind of scrolling through YouTube or SoundCloud or something to figure out what beat they want to record to, see what vibe they're in, to see what they want to record. And that's just honestly a huge time waster. And a lot of times I find with these same people, they will book 1 hour sessions and expect to record 4 songs in 1 hour, but they're not prepared. And so there's just a huge disconnect. And I'm not understanding why people don't understand that if you don't prepare for your session, you're going to waste time. And in turn, you are wasting money. So the best way to avoid this time waster is to make sure you are prepared before you come into the session. Make sure you have your song written. Make sure you've practiced that song a few times. Make sure you already know what beat, what instrumental you're going to do it to. Make sure that if you don't have that beat downloaded onto your thumb drive or hard drive or in your email, make sure that you know where to find it online. Make sure you have like the link somewhere in your notebook, somewhere in your notes on your phone, or make sure you know the name of the beat. That would really help a lot if you know that before coming to the studio. There have been times where the artist could not find what beat they're going to do because they forgot the name of it for some reason. I don't know how you forget something that's so important for your session, but it has indeed happened. If you are not gonna write your song before you come to the session, then you need to make sure you book more than 1 hour. Honestly, if you came to the session and you didn't write anything, I would say book a 4-hour block because that will give you more than enough time to get a decent concept going, kind of figure out what kind of flow you want to do, and get, some decent metaphors and some wordplay into your song. And it makes it so you don't feel so rushed to finish your song. And you don't want your song to sound rushed, so I would definitely recommend that you get a 4-hour block. A lot of studios do have deals on 4 hours where you buy 3, get 1 free. And so that would be something to take good advantage of. And again, if you're gonna make up your song on the spot, you should at least know what you want to talk about, or think of some kind of story, think of some kind of topic that you're gonna address in the song. Don't just rhyme things for the sake of rhyming things. That's a super pet peeve of mine because a song sounds sloppy. It's not structured a lot of the times, and it just doesn't make sense, and it's not something that people in the mainstream, people who are listening to the radio, would want to hear. Especially for newer artists, it is really difficult to connect what you're saying to what you're performing on the track. So if you don't have your stuff written and this is not a song that you've practiced a lot of times, you might struggle with making the song sound believable. You might struggle with putting the right emotion into the performance of the song. So that's another reason why I would say, to avoid this time waster of not knowing what you're going to do before you get there, make sure you have your material prepared before you get to the studio. Something that is extremely important when recording is the relationship between the engineer and the artist, and that means that communication is a huge and major key in the recording process. So of course, it is possible to under-communicate what you want in a session. And that's a huge time waster because if you're not able to tell the engineer what you want to do, when you want to do it in your song, then you are having to use a lot of your time explaining or trying to get the person to understand what it is you're trying to do. Under-communicating is when you're just not saying enough that would make the other person understand what you want to do or know the direction that you want to take. An example of under-communicating would be not being able to tell the engineer where your hook is, where your verse is, where your bridge is, and just not being able to tell the engineer, hey, I want to do ad-libs now, I want to do ins and outs, I want to do more backgrounds, blah, blah, blah. if you're not able to explain that, or if you're not able to explain the kind of effects that you want on your voice because you just don't have good vocabulary on that kind of thing right now, it makes it so that your session will drag a little bit longer and it'll waste more time because you're not getting the sound you want and the engineer doesn't understand what you want, so the engineer can't make it happen for you. Now, as important as communication is, it's possible to under-communicate. It's also possible to over-communicate. And I have had a few clients in the past who are really good at over-communicating. Over-communication wastes time because you're just saying too much, saying stuff that doesn't need to be said, and over-explaining things that don't need to be over-explained. Or that usually don't need to be explained at all, really. And I have had a couple of clients in the past who are really good about over communicating things. One example would be, and it just irks my nerves because in my opinion, this is another video, but a good engineer will be able to match your flow and match your workflow. So you shouldn't have to tell the engineer certain things. After a while, the engineer should pick up on what you want to do. I have one client who after every single take, he always feels the need to tell me, let me hear that. Let me hear it. All right, let me hear it. Let me hear it. And I'm just like, I know that you want to hear it after you do it because this is how you work. I know your workflow. We've been working long enough for me to know that after you do something, you want to hear what you did. You don't have to keep telling me. That's just a pet peeve of mine, but that can be one example of over communicating. A better example of over communicating is after you do a take, explaining to me why you have to do it over again instead of just saying you want to do it over again. So I've had a client in the past where he would make a mistake and then he would say, oh, well, you know what, let me do that again because, you know, I was doing too much on this part and I didn't say this and I actually did this wrong thing over there. And it's just like, bruh, stop. I don't need to know all that. All I need to know is that you want to do it over again. Let's run it back. You're wasting time telling me every little detail as to why you need to redo it. I understand why you want to redo it. You're an artist, you want to make sure it's done right. If you're a good artist of quality, you want to make sure it's done right. So all you have to do is tell me that you want to do it over again. No need for the over explanation. Last thing that most people don't realize takes up a lot of time in a session is when you are constantly missing your cue. So you just recorded one part, you just finished a take, and now it's time for you to go on to record the next portion. Well, when the engineer starts it back and you're going into the part that you're supposed to be saying, you missed the cue. Now this is only a few seconds, but if I'm playing 5-second intro for you to go into the part that you're supposed to be doing, those little 5 seconds, if I have to do that like 5 to 20 times, that adds up. And especially if you didn't book that much time, you're actually wasting a lot of time just by this little action of not coming in on your cue when you're supposed to. This happens a lot because the artist is not paying attention. They're not listening to the engineer when I say, are you ready? Or you would think they would be ready because I'm playing the music, we're here to record a song, so why aren't you going on to the next part? Unless you didn't tell the engineer, this goes back to communication, unless you didn't tell the engineer that you want to do it over and that's why you're silent, then it's up to you to tell the engineer, hey, I actually didn't like what I just did, I want to do that over instead of going to the next part. But anyway, a lot of times the client's not paying attention. I've had clients who were more interested in being on their phone, taking video, trying to snap for the Instagram, snap for Snapchat, trying to show off for people who are not in the studio, and they just miss their cue. They're on their phone texting or doing whatever, and it's just really annoying a lot of times. And there have also been times when the reason why the artist is missing the cue is because they're freestyling. Remember when I talked to you about not having anything prepared before you got to the studio? Well, this actually plays a role in why a lot of people miss their cue. A lot of times they miss the cue because they themselves don't know how this song is going. They don't know their structure for their own song because they're making it up on the spot. And so when it's time to go on to the next part, they don't remember what the last thing is that they said. So that's why they're wasting time by missing their cue. Everything I've mentioned in this video, they are little tiny details that do waste time and can cause you to waste time without you really even realizing it, but they are super important. When it comes to recording, you are setting a certain block of time that you want to get everything done in. So what this video really boils down to is time management. How well are you managing your time, and how well are you able to notice certain things that can be improved and tweaked to make sure that your sessions are running more smoothly, to make sure that you're not wasting time, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your session, basically. That's all I have have for this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if I missed anything that you think is also a huge time waster that happens to be a little tiny detail that maybe a lot of people don't pay attention to. Or if you just have some questions about things being in the studio or singing or being in the industry in general, let me know in the comment section down below. Before I end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons who are seeing this video way before you did. Why? Because for just as low as $5 per month, as a patron, you will see my videos as soon as I upload it, not when I decide to release it to the general public. So that means that you will see it weeks and sometimes months way before the general public sees it. Also, as a patron, for just $5 per month, you will get your requests bumped to the top of my list, to the top of my videos that I have to do. So not only are you seeing these things as soon as I upload it, but you're also seeing more content, more things that you actually want to know about, what you want advice on. So to become a patron of mine, head over to patreon.com/LexCATL and show your support that way. But in the meantime, you can like, subscribe, and share this video. Turn on the notification bell to be notified each and every time I post a new video, and that will also be great for your support as well. But again, my name is Lexi. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, peace.